Thank you everybody who is present here today. Every time I speak at this press club, beyond this group of real people, I see the ghosts of people who, even in recent times, would be here at this table with us. The ghosts of all of them who are today in prison. People who have spoken up. Recently, in fact yesterday, when someone sent me a draft of this press conference, they said a group of eminent people will address the press, and I said there are no more eminent people in this country. Everybody is fair game, you know. Everybody is now on the list or on the waiting list or on the reservation against cancellation list. And so I don't know who the next lot of people who will be here speaking to you when this lot have probably been dealt with. So I do want to salute all those people who have stood up and who are today behind bars. The people from Bhima Koregaon, the people, the lawyers, the academics, the professors, the journalists, the students, the anti-CAA activists, all of them. So before we even start to think of what has happened to our country, just look at, just as a brief history of us after independence. After independence, after we were given a constitution for the first time in the history of this civilization, this caste-based, social hierarchical civilization, for the first time we had a legal document that said all Indians are equal. This is a very, very, very important thing. And today this constitution has been rendered useless. As Yogendra said, the police, the politicians, and even, I'm afraid, the judges in our courts are reading a different constitution from the one that we know and we were taught. In the 60s, we had radical movements demanding justice, demanding the redistribution of wealth, demanding the redistribution of land, demanding revolution. Those movements were crushed. In the 80s and 90s, we were reduced to just speaking against displacement. People, Adivasis, people who lived on the banks of rivers, who had a little bit of land left, were now going to be displaced. And that was considered revolutionary, to say, please don't displace us. Now we are reduced to begging for our citizenship and even begging not to be just mass incarcerated in prison. Of course, this system of incarceration began on the edges of this country, in Kashmir, in the states of the Northeast, in Chhattisgarh, in central India, where hundreds, thousands of Adivasis and villagers, nameless and unknown, are in jail, charged with sedition, charged with this UAPA Act, the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. If there is one thing that this panel must demand, it is the revocation of that law. Because that is not a law. That is just a loose collection of words which allows a state to charge anyone with anything and imprison them for months and years together. That law, if it is not repealed, any amount of protests are not going to help us. We saw, and I have spoken before about CAA, NRC, and NPR. If you go to Assam, and if you see what has become of people, how much suffering those laws have brought, and the idea that they are planning to promulgate them in this part of the rest of the country. As we know, the only time before that a state has said that citizens will only be citizens provided they give us a set of documents that the state approved. That was done in 1935 in Nuremberg, in Nazi Germany. What it does is it makes us all illegal until we can prove ourselves to be legal. So this is, cutting the ground from under the feet, especially of Muslims and especially of Adivasis and Dalits and poorer people who do not have documentation. And the kinds of exploitation they will suffer are so numerous that one cannot, state them here. Now, if you just look carefully at what happened in Hathras, what happened in Hathras shows you the rot, that every organ in this country is rotten. There was a Dalit girl who said, when she was found nearly dead by her mother and brother and taken to a police station, she said, in 3 videos, she said, I was gang raped. I was gang raped by these men. She told them, he told you their names. You know the caste they came from. Yet the police did not register a case. She was taken to hospital. The doctors did not examine her for rape. They all started only looking at the strangulation wounds. And gradually the police, the medical community, the judicial community leaks caste out of the whole thing and makes it sound like some unfortunate crime. And hey, for all you know, maybe her mother did it, maybe her brother did it. Right? They blame the victim again. In Delhi, after all that happened in Hathras, again a little girl less than 20 years old is found hanging in a house. Again they take the body. Again they cremate it before evidence can be collected. So every aspect of our society is rotten now. But the one thing that none of us have talked about, and ironically, it's an odd thing to have to talk about at a press conference, the most rotten part of this country is the mainstream media. The most tragic part of this country, the most shameful part of this country. People who think or who have the audacity to call themselves journalists or television anchors, basically spineless pets on a saffron leash, drawing massive corporate salaries, destroying the lives of people. I mean, look at Omar Khalid. How many years have they lied about him? How many years have they called him names? How many times have they completely endangered his life? And that build-up of him is now the reason that he is in jail. It is such a shameless media. I'm sorry to have to say this here. I don't know how many of you represent the mainstream media, and I know that people who are here are not the problem. The problem is the people who advertise on those channels and the anchors who run those channels. They are the most despicable human beings on earth today. Really, they are beyond disgusting. And we would not be in a state of fascism if it was not for the Indian media. I mean, we all hear about the horrors of Donald Trump. Donald Trump ought to lose the elections. He's a white supremacist, racist, but he does press conferences. The press covers it, it criticizes him, it eviscerates him. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? It is really beyond humiliating to live in this atmosphere where people are just funneled and marinated in this hatred. Today, you have a country whose economy is in shreds. People are hungry, people don't have jobs. Everything is coming apart, but we are held together by a pipeline of hatred which is funneled by the mainstream media. That will not last. It's going to collapse. We are in a situation where even the election machinery is compromised, while the government goes after non-conforming NGOs, while it has criminalized political opposition, it has criminalized social movements, it has criminalized non-conforming NGOs, it has criminalized the space for dissent, it has criminalized individuals one by one, and yet it's held together by the fact that you have an election machinery where election funding is completely opaque, where one party has more money than all the other parties put together. An election is like watching the BJP, the Ferrari of the BJP, compete against a few broken bicycles. and we call ourselves a democracy. We are a one-party democracy, which is an oxymoron. In other countries, and even in India, we have seen very contentious elections. We have watched political parties fight each other in very unfair ways. That's fine. But today we are in a situation where we have a ruling party that does not want an opposition to exist. So all political leaders from other parties are either, being blackmailed with or threatened with ED and so on. And so eventually you have an opposition, or they try to have an opposition that is the kind of opposition that they want, that can't say very much but occupies that space and continues that theater. So today, the only good thing that is happening is it is unsustainable. This is unsustainable. It isn't possible for this to continue. So you're seeing one by one individual judges, individual chief ministers, individual politicians slowly come up to realize it is not possible. We have a government that is very cunning in how it can win the elections, but has no intelligence about how to rule this very vast country. So let's not pretend anymore that this is a democracy and there is a lot of noise on the media and it's free. It is not free. And I will lay a huge amount of responsibility on the doorstep of the corporate funded mainstream media, of the corporates that do fund this toxic media. Some corporates have started being worried about it because they know that in a climate like this, when the world's economy is integrated, even the people who work for the BJP, who support the BJP, who vote for the BJP, even they will be finished. Even the people who want to have a Hindu Rashtra at home and have their children in America, the next generation of children that are educated here will not be competent to study anywhere else in the world. It's over. The story is over. Unless every one of us, whatever our differences, realize that we are up against fascism. Please try and do some reading if you want to know how things can get worse. We are all living in a time worse than any time we can remember. But if we don't step up now, we are going to be like toothpaste that's been squeezed out of the tube. We have nowhere to go. We cannot do anything. So every one of us, whether you're a judge, whether you're a politician, whether you're a writer, whether you're a student, whether you're a small magistrate, whatever you are, the time to stand up is now. Thank you, ghosts, for listening. Bye.